Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. If you've just come across this message, it is the last one for this tour of Egypt 2019. I sit before the attendees who know it is the last meeting. Dear ones, I'm going to ask you just for a few moments to step back. Now, that is a phrase I use that asks you to step away for a moment, just to step away from everything you believe or have been told or even hold dear to yourself, just for a moment. In order to have a quiet time of reflection, and in these moments where you may step away, that is when you receive new information, intuition. Sometimes these meetings, these last meetings, I tell my partner, don't record them, because they're personal and they're sweet. And they're meaningful to those in the chairs who have gone through weeks with each other. It is personal. Think of the things that some of you have gone through. But in all that you have gone through personally, I want you to reflect on what you've gone through together. And that's going to be the subject. You've stood perhaps before the group and shared and wept with feelings you don't understand because you were moved by what you saw. Some of you feel perhaps you've been here or not, but you're not really absolutely 100% sure. Step away. But you felt something. And when a human being feels something, they often then relate it to what they're in front of or where they are or the situation. And that develops also something else, an empathy, a togetherness, a coherence with one another. You start to look at each other perhaps a little differently. All of the countries that you've come from, the thousands of miles, the oceans, the deserts, the land that you've crossed to get here, have meant that you arrived here on purpose, that you have been planning for this time, and it finds you in the chair right now. Step away. But what I'm about to say, could it be there's something larger going on that you'll never understand? As a human, you will never understand this. Step away. Last night, I invited you to think for a moment of what you've seen in Egypt. And so many of you had said, well, I've seen the history of this great land. And I reminded you, well, actually, you didn't see the history. You learned of it from the guides. That what you saw in the hieroglyphics, temple after temple after temple, what you saw wasn't really the history. It was pictures of magic, of light, of a belief that they all carried in this ancient land. What you really saw was the enlightenment they wanted to share of what they believed. A God of light that was for all. And the main focus was the afterlife. That's what you saw. Step away. On the walls, there was something special if you noticed, if you paid attention. the ancients, over 5,000 years ago, carefully etched into the walls the idea that there is part of you that is not you, an essence of you that goes with you, perhaps a bubble that carries something. And dear ones, that was their belief intuitively, that there's more than the biology. There's a soul. Now you can call this anything you want to. Step away. For all of your belief systems will identify it and name it and give you the steps, but step away for just a moment and listen. All those years ago, all those dynasties in those ancient, precious, pure years, they talked about the things that we talk about today. For that to happen, dear ones, that had to be intuitive information that the human receives at some level. We invited you to examine belief system after belief system on this planet. What is the prime focus of a Muslim, of a Christian, of a Buddhist, of a Hindu, of an Israeli? What is the prime focus? They have something in common. It's the afterlife. Have you thought about this? That has to be intuitive. If you go back and examine the indigenous of this planet, you can go back more years than you think we've been here as a guiding light for you, or you've been here, and you will still find human beings that believe in the afterlife. In order for this to happen, for most of the earth to have some intuition, there's got to be truth behind it. Do you understand this? Step away. Don't label it. There's something higher than you with your name on it. And there are those who say, well, where is this higher thing that's you? There is no where in a multidimensional space. If you ask, where is God? The answer is yes. And that's confusing. In every atom, in every cell of your body, that's where God is. The soul, therefore, becomes something that humans have in common. And no matter what the belief system, they know that it's quite different from their biology, and it's a vehicle that's going to take with them something that they have, a consciousness, whatever it is, into that place that you know comes after death. I'll say this again, there is no sting in death. You're passing through to something far, far larger, more grand, and bigger than any of you can imagine. That's the first step. Is there a soul? Do you believe it? Most of humanity does. At this section of time, in 2019, the estimates from those who study these belief systems say that 85% of the almost 7 billion people on this planet believe in the afterlife. That tells you it's more than wishful thinking. It's built in. If you were born and somehow were orphaned and were on an island and somehow made it and were raised perhaps just by the elements and were alone as you grew up, I guarantee that as you looked at the sun and the water and the trees and the animals all around you, you would know you had a soul. That's how intuitive it is. You'd be one with the earth. You'd relate to the sun and the stars and the moon, just like the ancients did. It's part of you. That's question one. Do you believe in the soul? Question two has no answer. Not really. Because it is far beyond that which any human being can conceive of. This is not an insult to your intellect, dear ones. It is a statement of fact. You can only think so high. And the issue of the soul and what is beyond life is so grand, you cannot even touch the surface of what is there. All you know, it is beautiful. All you know, from the ancients till today, it is a place that is better than this one. It is a place that perhaps is filled with love and compassion, and you don't really understand what you do there or how it works. Step away for just a moment. Not what you've been told, but what you feel in your heart right now. Question 2. In all of this that you don't understand, and all of the billions or trillions of souls, do you think for a moment there might be a benevolent plan involved? Step away. If you were the creator and you went to the trouble of the creation of souls in your love for this planet, that let you touch the Creator while you were here, when you're balanced, dear ones, that's the communication, that's the channel. And we said this, through your intuition, you can feel that. Through your meditations and your stillness, all over the planet, meditating, praying on a regular basis, touching perhaps the face of God, that is the prime directive, is it not? You're the creator. If you create all this, is there a plan? Could it be that it's not all about the afterlife? Could it be that it's really about your soul, then, now, in the future, right now? And if that is so, and there is a plan, let me give you a hint about what that plan might be. That plan is to have a confluence of love and compassion for each other. As you bump into each other, seemingly by accident, you start to see it and feel it. How many of you have gone away, will go away, with friends that are deeper than friends that you met right here? How many? How many of you have been able to look into the eyes of strangers with another language than yours and see the love that they have for one another and their family or you? How many of you have stepped away and broken the barriers of belief systems and said, I know you don't believe what I believe, but boy, I feel you. I feel the love you have and the compassion. You're a good person. That's what happens when you step away from the linearity of what you've been told about this works this way or that works that way. And you start to understand there's a plan. All of you met the guides, and they met you. What do you think? Some of you will take them home in your hearts, not what they said. You saw more than their education. Perhaps some of them even told you of their family. And you realized that they're professionals and there's a plan. And you realized that they know a lot of things about Egypt, but oh, there is a plan. And above all of this, perhaps more than you will ever understand or know, you are not here by accident, and neither are they. Oh, they work this with group after group after group after group, but you're seeing them differently, aren't you? Because your souls are bumping together in a way that creates a confluence and starts a teaching that I have been giving you for 30 years. This planet eventually will have a confluence of souls bumping together and starting to see each other at a higher level. And the barriers will start to reduce themselves of separation between belief systems or countries, and I gave that to you last night. Hard as it may seem to believe, this already has begun on the planet, And slowly it continues. This is a tour to Egypt. And at the linear level, it is a tour, organized, and you're here. And you've seen temple after temple, and you've eaten a lot. That's the linearity of it. But what if there was more? You come together in a way that you create a balance and a confluence. You'll never think the same thing about this land. If you've never been here, you will go away, and the Nile will have touched you. And the belief of the ancients of the life of this Nile will have touched you. Perhaps in the walls, their description of the beauty of their afterlife and the inclusion of all, and their consistency of teaching through hundreds of years will make an impact on you. And when somebody says, "May you always drink from the Nile," you will smile and realize that's not physical. That is a grand metaphor that will bring you right back to this place where you celebrate the life that is here, that the ancients saw, that has been preserved on the walls the best they can, of something very special. And you will know there is a plan. And then there are always those who will say, "Well, Kryon, he didn't answer the question, what's the plan?" And the answer is yes. Know this. This plan includes you, your name, in this place right now, having experienced something with the others that is remarkable. And it has to do with enlightenment and balance and the growth of your humanism at a time when it's very much needed right now. Go from this place different. Go from this place more intelligent than you were before about cultures you hadn't seen before, or what it means to step away. We're coming back to this land. And when we do, and you listen to the channels, they're going to be the same. Honoring the ancients, honoring the divine feminine, reminding people that the ancients were very clever to have built what they did as humans, to have had the healing that they did, and the remarkable progressiveness that they did, that some of us are just learning about today. You're in the right place at the right time if you didn't know that. Look at people differently. Indeed, may each of you always drink from the Nile. That's a metaphor. And so it is.